by sketching out the problem 13 times 12. So that's going to be the problem that we're going to work on. 13 times 12. I'm going to show you how to sketch, and then we're going to go over how to solve it. We saw in the video from yesterday that when the woman was building her sketch, she put some blocks going left to right and some blocks going up and down. The way we're going to do it is kind of similar, okay? For the number 13, to sketch 13, I would need to draw one line and then 3 dots. 1, 2, 3. So our line is our 10, and then our dots are 1s. So we have 10, 11, 12, 13. Now again, we can't just multiply with one number. So we're also going to sketch the number 12. Now to sketch 12, instead of going horizontally, left to right, like we did for 13, we're going to go up and down. Okay? For 12, it's also going to have a 10, but look what I'm going to do. You see where we started our line for the 13? I'm going to start at that exact same place. And instead of making my line go sideways, it's going to go up and down. So we need a line for a 10. And then 1, 2 dots for the 1s. 10, 11, 12. And you might be wondering, looking at this, well, this looks a lot different than the problems we were doing yesterday. Yeah, kind of. But I'm gonna show you right now how to make it look like the other ones. Okay? So we have our two numbers, 13, 12. To make it look like our other ones, the other sketches we were seeing the other day, we need to finish. This is just the beginning of the sketch. Now you see how my two lines here kind of already started to make that square? I'm going to use this line, this one that's going up and down. I'm going to make the same line here. And then every time I see a dot, I'm going to use that as the start and make the same line. Doot, doot, doot. So it's kind of like I just took the line and made copies of it. So I made one copy at the other end of my line for 13, at the other end of this line. And then I made a copy every time I saw a dot. Doot, doot, doot. Now I'm going to use my dots. And just like I did with the line, I'm going to make copies of those too. Okay? So I have my first dot here. And every place that I made a copy of my line, I'm going to make a copy of the dot. So there's going to be one here, one here, one here, one here. Yeah, what's on my paper, Alexa, should be on your paper. I'm going to do the same thing with the other dot. You see how everything's kind of nice and lined up for me? That's exactly what I want. Okay. So we made copies of the 12, right? I took all my lines and made copies of those. I took all the dots and I made copies of those. Now I'm going to make copies of my 13. Add one line and 3 dots. This time, instead of making my copies go sideways, my copies are going to go up and down. I'm going to make a copy of my line here. I'm going to make copies of my line all the way down until I don't have anything else. I'm just making a copy of this line at the top, going all the way down to the bottom. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the dots I made. Every place I made a copy of my line, I'm going to make a copy of my dot. Boom, 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 boom. Now this looks a lot more like those problems we were doing for homework and the problems we were doing in class the other day. Once we have our sketch just like this, just like the other day, we start counting. Now I know that a big difference between the sketch that we made and the sketches we saw the other day, the ones on the paper, is in their sketches, they made sure to draw all the little squares inside of our box and all the little squares inside of our tens. Again, this is math, it's not art class. So I don't want to spend my time drawing 100 little teeny tiny squares in here. I don't want to spend my time drawing 10 little boxes here. If I see a box like this, I know that that is 100. If I see a line like this, I know that that is 10. And if I see a little dot by itself, I know that that is 1. Just like the problems yesterday, we're going to count them in groups. So first I'm going to count how many hundreds did I have. In this case, how many squares did I end up with? Bella, how many squares did I end up with?
1.
Just 1, so it's just 100. Then I'm going to start counting my lines. My lines, every time I see a line, I'm going to count 10. We have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Now I still need to count the dots, but like I told you all the other day, and like I've told you before, I don't like adding up all my numbers at once. I like to just add 2 numbers at a time so I don't make a lot of mistakes. 0 plus 0 is 0, but what is 0 plus 5? Alexa, what's 0 plus 5?
5.
5. And then 1 plus nothing is the same as 1 plus 0, but what would it be? Bella?
1.
1. Okay, so I counted my hundreds. That's good. Counted my tens. That's also good. But I can't forget to count the ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is 0 plus 6? Bailey? 6. Then 5 plus nothing would be 5. 1 plus nothing would be 1. And I have my answer. 156. So I can write that up here. 13 times 12 equals 156. So drawing the sketch ourselves isn't too difficult. We just need to make sure that when we start, we have the right number, that we're not using the wrong numbers to multiply first. And number 2, that when we draw our lines and our dots, we have the correct number of lines and the correct number of dots. We're going to try another one. Okay, very similar. We're going to do 16 times 24. So 16 times 24. Just like the last time. I'm going to draw my first number. And the first one I'm going to go left to right. It's going to be horizontal. To draw 16, I need a line for my 10. And this time I'm going to need 6 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 16. Then I'm going to draw 24. Just like last time. I'm going to start here where I started that first line. I'm going to start in that same corner. Now for 24, I need 2 lines, 2 10s, because it's not 14, it's 24. So 10, 20, and then 4 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. One thing that people might try to do when they're sketching is, you see here I gave the ones a lot more room, and then here I kind of like squished them together. When you're drawing, you can try to squish things together, but it's going to make it a little harder for yourself. I'm going to actually redraw my ones and give them a little more room. (16, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And here's 24. 10, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start copying. Okay, I'm going to take my line here, this first 10, and I'm going to make copies all the way across. Okay, so I'm going to make 1 copy at the end of this line and 1 copy every time I see a dot. I'm going to do the same thing to this line. Everywhere I made a copy of that first line, I'm going to make a copy of the next line. Not right now, Nakai. I answered that question earlier. We're doing math right now. And you're going to see when you make the copies, it's going to end up making this again. It all look very lined up. Now I'm going to make a copy of my dots. Again, everywhere I put a copy of the line, I'm going to put a copy of my dot. And I'm going to do the same thing for all these other dots. Same thing for that one. And one more. And you'll know that you're done because everything will kind of make a nice little rectangle. Well, I made copies of my 24. I gotta make copies of the 16 now. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna start with my 10s. I'm gonna start making copies of the 10s all the way down. Okay? So at the end of these lines, copy of my 10. The ends of these lines, another copy of my 10. See these two dots? Copies of my 10. Copies of the 10 all the way down. Then I do my 1s. I'm going to start making copies of my dots. The end of all my lines. Every time I see a dot. Same thing for all the other ones. And once I finish making copies of everything, I can see the sketch is finished. All I have to remember now when I go to solve it is my squares are my hundreds, my lines are my 10s, and the dots are 1s. Now we can start counting and we can see what the answer. If I multiply 16, 24, what should I get? If I count my hundreds, just the hundreds for right now, who can tell me what would I get? If I just count my hundreds, what would I have? Kylie?
You would have 200.
200, because I have two squares. Okay. Now I start counting my 10s. And this one I ended up with a lot of 10s. So I do need to be careful when I start counting my 10s. You have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. I can't forget, these are also 10s down here, so I need to count those as well. 120, 130, 140, 150, 160. $160 if I count the 10. I still need to count my ones, but again, I don't want to add all my numbers up at once. I want to go 2 numbers at a time so that it's a little bit simpler, it's a little easier, and I don't make as many mistakes. 0 plus 0 is still 0, but what is 0 plus 6? Bella, what's 0 plus 6?
6.
6. And what is 2 plus 1? Bailey?
3.
3. 360. That's not my answer yet because I can't forget. I still have to count my ones. So let's count those next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So we have to add 24. And then we'll find our answer. What is 0 plus 4? Jaylene?
4.
4. What is 6 plus 2? Jada? 'What would it be, Jada? 6 plus 2. Oh, Jada's internet messed. Who can tell me what's 6 plus? Kylie?
8.
8. And what is 3 plus nothing? What do I get? 3 plus nothing is what? Alexa?
3.
3. So there I have my answer. 16 times 24 equals 384.